So again, good afternoon. We are in week 11, and this module will focus now on moral courage and courage. So for this session today, Josiah, good afternoon. Thank you for joining. The attendance form is in the chat box. Kindly fill that one out after attending the session today. So again, we're in module 11, week 11, and today we'll talk about moral courage. So there are threefold objective for this session. Number one is to understand what is courage, and that to understand courage, we also have to enumerate the different types of courage that you get to experience or make a decision to on a daily basis. And lastly, we want for you to expound on moral courage. And in order for you to do that, we'll take a look into the work of Breen Brown. She's a researcher, qualitative researcher, and a sociologist, by profession. So we'll take a look at her work on shame so that we'll have a deeper understanding of what moral courage is. So let's start with this one, courage as a virtue. So I'd like you to read the do a courage full act. No, at times we all recognize that we are fearful one way or the other, and that we just take that decision because we do believe that uh, it's important, to take action. Okay, in your case, you're looking into your inspiration, your family, and then after that, you get to perform the task. So that's one good way not to overcome uh, fear. Now, moving forward, when is courage a virtue? Okay. So it becomes a virtue when we choose to do good. And in your case, for example, in your experience, okay, it's important to take a look into your source, diba? Of not only inspiration, but technically your why of doing things inside the class, or you really learning, instead of just simply attending the class. Again, our courageous act is fueled by our whys. And this is why it's important that every courageful act or courageous act that we choose to do good. Okay? So, kailan yung courage nagiging fortitude siya kapag pinipili natin na gumawa ng mabuti. Okay. So, moving forward, being deeply loved by someone, according to Lao Tzu, gives us strength, while loving someone deeply gives us courage. Okay. Hosea, can you now unmute your mic? Internet connection. But nonetheless, now when we talk of courage here, courage is something that you do when you decide to give out love. Okay? And you cannot do that courageful act not unless you receive love first. Gaya ng example ni Annabelle, no? So hindi mo naman magiging source of inspiration na yung family mo kung if you have not received love from your family. And this is why you have committed yourself to doing good at school, no? Because you have received something from your family and you owe it to your family, no? Kaya ka nag-aaral ng maigi. So, you coming to class, the both of you, is actually a courageous act, on your end. Okay? Now, moving forward, ang sabi ni Aristotle, sa definition niya ng courageous, a courageous man withstands and fears those things which is necessary to fear and withstand. And on account of the right reason and how and when it's necessary to fear or withstand them. And likewise, in the case of being bold. So anong gusto lang sabihin dito ni Aristotle? That we have to recognize that everyone actually fears something. No, lahat tayo, meron tayong kinatatakutan. At valid yung takot na yon. Pero hindi siya dapat magtapos doon sa takot na nararamdaman natin, no? Dahil buhay tayo, importante na hinaharap natin yung takot na yan. Kasi wala namang matapang na tao na hindi natakot nung umpisa. Okay? Kaya natin na-overcome yung mga bagay-bagay ay dahil nagde-desisyon tayo na harapin yung kinatatakutan natin. So, that is being courageous. Now, however, sabi din ni Aristotle, the man of courage acts courageously in a qualified way, at the right time, in the right manner, with the right motivation or correct purpose. So, ang sinasabi lang dito no ni Aristotle, we cannot qualify everything as a courageous act. Yes, you deciding to do something about what you fear of is courageous. Pero lahat ba ng courageous act pwede talaga nating i-honor? Ang sabi ni Aristotle, hindi. Bakit? Kasi hindi lahat ng courageous act ay mabuti. Okay? So importante na ini-evaluate natin no yung bawat courageous act na ginagawa natin. So paano 'yon? Like for example, you not being fearful of losing money, 'di ba? Anong mangyayari sa iyo? Dahil hindi ka fearful na mawala yung pera, ilulustayin mo yung pera. Is that something which is good? Of course hindi, 'di ba? That's not a good way to handle that fear. Actually, that's not a good fear at the first place. Ano pa? Fear of death, okay? Dahil takot na takot ka na mamatay, ang ginawa mo na lang siya. Gaya ng example dito, suicide. Or dahil sobrang takot ka dun sa problema at hand, hindi mo siya hinarap, tinakasan mo yung problema. Okay? So again, when we talk of courage as a virtue, importante na maintindihan natin siya na ang courage, hindi siya magiging fortitude, not unless no we're dealing with the dilemma, with the problem in a right manner. Okay? Now, there are 6 types of courage that we get to face on a daily basis. Physical, moral.
Order to be safe.
Okay, very good, no? So again, any physical courageous act will involve someone choosing to do good using their physical strength. Gaya nga nung na-cite mo, no, kanina. So napaka-importante, no, na maintindihan natin that there are actually people who are actually risking their lives, no, for other people in certain occasions that requires them not to use their physical strength to save other people, and it happens every day, like for the in the example of the firemen and all of the other people who actually use physical strength to save other people. Okay, so that's physical courage. Now another is moral courage, and this is the aim of ethics. No, you coming to class learning about ethics is you also judging dilemmas in a lens of moral courage. So when we talk of moral courage, this involves the right thing, particularly when we risk something, and part of that risking is you facing shame, opposition, disapproval of other people. Okay, what else? To have moral courage, what we mean here is to do what is right simply because it is the right thing to do, even at the cost of personal sacrifice. So there are a lot of things actually that we do right now that may cause other people to disapprove of what we believe as something that is right. And it's moral courage who pushes us, diba, to do it still, even if no one is doing it. So courage actually now is an ethical value if it is applied in a moral way. So para mas maintindihan natin yan, remember that ethics is a moral philosophy. It's a discipline that is concerned with what is morally good and what is morally right and wrong. And the society has already defined what is morally right and wrong. Diba? External standards, meron na tayo niyan. May batas, may norms tayo, may kultura tayo na nagsasabi ng kung ano yung tama at mali, mabuti at hindi. However, as human, having our own free will and rational tayo, meron tayong mga certain principles na ina-uphold to be right and good. No, meron na tayo niyan. Ikaw meron ka niyan, ako may mga personal din akong perception kung ano yung tama at mabuti. Kaya nga, bilang mga tao, no, palagi tayong babalik dun sa moral compass natin kapag ka nagdedesisyon, no? Hindi lang basta tayo maapektuhan ng sinasabi ng ibang tao na alam mo ito yung tamang gawin or ito yung mabuting gawin kasi at the end of the day, sino bang haharap no ng mga consequences ng decisions natin? Hindi ba tayo din? So importante na morally grounded tayo bilang mga tao. So, mas lalo tong no lalo tong susunod no kasi yung dimension ng courage on a social level is affected by our moral compass. So anong ibig sabihin ngayon ng social courage? Social courage involves the risk of social embarrassment or exclusion, unpopularity or rejection. At nangyayari ito kapag gumagawa ba tayo ng mabuti? Yes, there are things that we do because we believe it as to be something which is good. However, we face exclusion, we face rejection because that's what we believe to be true. Now, social courage means not conforming to the expectation of others, being willing to show our true selves, risking of social disapproval or even punishment. At nangyayari ba to? Yes, maraming beses na sa history natin and maybe in your own lives, 'di ba? That you have faced certain social pressure of doing something which you think is right. However, you have done it, 'di ba? You done it anyway because that's what is the right thing to do. Okay? At nangyayari ba yan? Nangyayari yan. Na-experience na natin yan lahat. So ano yung mga example nito? Admitting that you are at a place of mistaken ka dun sa gawa mo, 'di ba? Mahirap 'yang gawin, yung umamin na mali ka, pero gagawin mo. No, kahit may social pressure na ay baka hindi ako maintindihan. So you admit your mistake still because you believe, 'di ba? That is the best thing to do. What else? Apologizing for that certain mistake, no? It's not easy, however, because we believe that we apologize when we get to hurt someone, then it's important, 'di ba? It's important, no, to do it still, even there is a social pressure, no, involved. What else? Having a personal style and sticking to it regardless of a fashion trend, 'di ba? Kahit hindi ka nakikiuso, basta okay lang 'yun. Hindi naman I have a family to feed, not people to impress, 'di ba? Yung mga ganyan na paniniwala na there are certain value and top priorities kesa sa damit. What else? Resisting to temptation. When you talk of resisting to temptation, ayan, temptation to lie or cheat, even a close friend or family member asks you to. So again, there are a lot of things no that we face on a daily basis, no, and that involves social pressure. But at the end of the day, we still choose not to do what is right. So another thing no, that we have to be aware of is that we also must exhibit intellectual courage. So what do we mean by intellectual courage? Intellectual courage is when we are willing to engage with challenging ideas, to question our thinking, and to risk of making mistakes. So what do we mean by that? As human beings, we are bound to have different views on different things, no? Pero it's intellectual courage when you admit no to yourself that you do not know everything and that you value and respect other people's opinion as well or other people's value no, of a certain thing. So bakit importante 'yon? Kasi nga magkakaiba tayo talaga, no? At dapat bilang mga tao, naiintindihan natin na kailangan bukas tayo sa perception at pananaw ng ibang tao. Okay? So, sabi nga ni Marie Curie, nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be misunderstood. No, may ganyan tayo kasi social animal lang tao eh, no. Importante sa kanya yung inclusion. However, we also have to have that stand, no? Gaya nga sa social courage, sa moral courage. At the end of the day, there are really beliefs that we cannot understand. And this is why we are open. No, we open ourselves, not necessarily to adapt to that belief, but recognize that this certain belief of other people do exist and that we are respectful, no? Another that we have to take a look in terms of the dimension of courage is the emotions, no? In the module on emotions last week, we understood, no, that there's a moral dimension to emotion, 'di ba? Na hindi ka lang ba dapat nagpapa-consume sa nararamdaman mo? Meron tayong obligasyon na ramdamin yung nararamdaman natin at gumawa ng tamang desisyon, no? Not at the peak of the emotion, but when you get to process it already. Okay? So good afternoon, Sarah. Later I'll call you to explain a certain idea. Okay? But nonetheless, we'll just continue with these types of courage. So, when we talk of emotional courage as well, this also means loving yourself, being proud of yourself, and believing that you are actually worthy of love and happiness. And mas magda-dive tayo dito mamaya sa moral at emotional courage when you get to listen to the work of Brené Brown. Okay? So, ano pa ang mga example ng emotional courage? Confronting a family member about abuse or addiction. What else? Forgiving someone you love or crying without embarrassment. These are all uh, courageous act, no, of dealing with our emotion and managing our emotions. Now, lastly is spiritual courage. Spiritual courage, it deals with the question about faith, no, purpose and meaning of life. So lahat ng tao, lahat tayo nagse-strive, 'di ba, to understand our purpose. And it's important that as individuals, we get to practice spiritual courage. Okay, I do not know if some of you are atheists or agnostic, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean, no, that you will not recognize that there are things that are really out of your control, 'di ba? May mga bagay na hindi natin kontrolado at napaka-importante na we have a sense of moral compass. No, kahit hindi natin kontrolado yung mga bagay-bagay, we have a sense of moral compass na tayo ay actually makakaapekto, no, yung mga decision natin makakaapekto siya sa mga taong nakapaligid sa atin. So for the religious people, of course, their belief of God, no, their belief of being connected to God, allow them, no, to evaluate, no, whatever it is that they do, no. So for the non-believers, there are many ways still, no, to practice spiritual courage even without you being in a formal religion. Okay? So pwede ka bang mag-pray, mag-meditate, do charitable work? Yes, no, you still do that. Pwede naman. Wala namang problema diyan. Okay? At ang pinaka-goal naman, I believe, the goal of life is for us to really recognize that it's important to help other people, no? Yun siya, no? Hindi tayo matatapos ang buhay na sa atin lang. Ang buhay ay mas may meaning kung nakikita natin yung halaga nito at halaga ng ibang tao. So yun yung mga types, no, ng courage. Ngayon, papasok na tayo sa from understanding what courage is to acting with courage. And this is where the work of Brené Brown, no, comes in. Okay? So I want you to give me a thumbs up kapag ka nakita